Welcome, everyone, to the Unionville Historic District and Properties Commission meeting on April 1st, 2021. This is the second educational session we're having for our spring education program series in 2021. This is the third year that we've held this series, and we're particularly excited to have the folks from Sanford and Hawley here tonight. In past spring educational seminars, representatives from Sanford and Hawley have come to the commission and talked about a variety of materials that has really raised the knowledge content of the commission and we believe made our work better. But tonight we get to hear about new products for historic home projects from Sanford and Hawley, but also a look back at the history of Unionville's oldest business, Sanford and Hawley. So we're very, very excited. Welcome and thank you very much for being here this evening.
Thank you.
Glad to be here.
We'll just let you go ahead and start your presentation.
Okay, terrific. I'm Sean Graziano. I'm the sales manager at Sanford and Hawley. I think we have Bob Sanford here, Frank Sanford. Ted, are you here with us? Maybe not Ted. John Horoho, our general manager, is also with us tonight. So thank you very much for having us. I've had the pleasure of doing presentations for this group in the past, and I think that they were very fruitful. I think we've got some new and interesting stuff here and maybe refresh your memory on a couple of other topics. But I'm going to have Frank narrate the history of this fine organization. So Frank, why don't you take it away?
Okay, thank you, Sean.
Sure.
Good evening, everyone. Sanford and Hawley was founded in 1884 by my great-grandfather, also named Frank Sanford, and his brother-in-law, C. Robert Hawley. And as was said before, we are the oldest business in Farmington, still in its original location and owned by the same family. Currently fourth and fifth generations. Next slide, Sean. This is just an old business card that's in our archives. Interesting variety of products we sold at the time, from prepared paints, which were brand new, to brick, lime, cement, and stove wood, and agricultural implements. I'm always curious when I see old rusty farm equipment, whether some of it is one of the Buckeye mowers that my great-grandfather sold. And here's a photo. My great-grandfather Frank on the right, Bob Hawley sitting in the middle, and William Jones on the left, who rented the second floor of the store to repair carriages and wagons, principally wheels, I believe. And he had a long commute. He walked down from Burlington every day.
Wow.
Whoa. Oh my gosh.
And this is my grandfather, Truman, who always loved horses all of his life, with George in 1908. This was probably in the summer. He was a college student at Yale then, and graduated as a surveyor, practiced surveying for a number of years with the New Haven Railroad and some of its affiliates, and came into the business in 1920 when Bob Hawley passed away. This is my dad, Bob Sr., who ran the business from basically 1946 when he got out of the Army up into the late 80s when he was gradually turning control over to my brothers and myself. And my brothers and myself, taken a few years ago, but not too many. It was after 2009 when we rebuilt the Unionville yard. This is the oldest known picture of the store from 1885, taken from the iron bridge that was out front. And when the bridge was rebuilt a few years ago, they found the tip of one of those iron pickets, which we now have in the store. The store was actually built in the early 1800s as a woolen mill. And there were two houses on Key Street, one of which we now own, built at the same time. They were two family homes that housed workers. Around 1830, Seymour, Williams, and Porter did build clocks there. In the 1850s, it went into a factory for buttons and hooks and eyes, which continued up until 1884 when we purchased the property. I don't think the statement here is quite right. I believe Sherman was my great-grandfather's brother, and they were partners for quite a long while, developing real estate, including parts of Key Street and Cottage Street in Unionville. This is a picture from the early 1900s showing the delivery fleet, a one-horse wagon and a two-horse wagon.
Nice.
And in those days, lumber would be delivered in a boxcar to the rail siding nearest the job site. If you were building a house in Farmington or Avon, the boxcar would be shipped to those towns, and both teams of horses would head over, unload the car, and deliver it. And all one stick at a time. This is a picture that I've never seen before. Looks like it was taken, in a similar era, but looks like it was in the wintertime with a good bit of snow on a very narrow West Avon road.
Mm. Oh.
This is from, I believe, actually the 1920s, with some of the employees and their children out front. And by then we had trucks. License plates on those trucks are 24 and 25. And we still have those two plates today.
Wow.
This is from 1955. And this was while the store was being remodeled, the winter of 54 and 55, just before the Great Flood.
Flood.
Wow. Oh, boy.
And there's a view from Keys Street.
Wow.
This was definitely before or after the water level peaked. If you're familiar with inside the store, the water peaked a few inches below the tops of the sales counters.
Mm.
And my dad went over the night that the water was rising and picked up all the brand new calculators and adding machines, placed them up on the counter, took all the records, put them in waste paper baskets, and took them up to the second floor. And you can see a doorway about halfway down the second floor. He was standing there the next morning and someone came by in a rowboat and offered him a lift.
Oh,
Wow.
He accepted, but he said, take these waste paper baskets first. We need to send the bills out at the end of the month.
good businessman.
Oh, man.
Yeah, and that's a view from the opposite side, probably taken from like where the gas station is now.
Mhm.
And you can see the extent of the damage. That's probably pretty near the high water mark. That over that sliding door to the left there is a mark on that door frame
Mm.
that was penciled in when shortly after the flood.
Mm.
This is from the 1980s. Not a lot of change. And again, in 2009, shortly before we started doing some renovations, the old lumber yard, just before we started building the new drive-through warehouse.
Mm-hmm.
And then the look today, and you can also see in the store, we restored it with additional windows to bring it back to its 1884 appearance. And some of the jobs that we've supplied in the local area are listed here. R.F. Jones was the son of Bill Jones in the photo earlier, and he was a very loyal customer for many, many years. Seven Keys Street, one of the two-family houses shown just after we purchased it. We believe it is one of the oldest houses in Unionville.
Mm.
And it was in pretty poor condition when we purchased it. You can see the addition there had no foundation under it. We did a major gut rehab, new sheathing and siding on the exterior, new windows, rebuilt the addition to the rear. The lean-to at the front there was totally unsupported at the time this picture was taken. It turned out there was no foundation under that other than a few rocks, which of course we repaired. And the finished project looking much nicer than it did when we purchased it. And Sanford and Hawley in the early days built houses, including all of these addresses. One of the Lovely Street homes was my great-grandfather Frank Sanford's house. The Sanford family has lived on Lovely Street in Unionville going back to the early 1800s, when my great-grandfather moved there from Berlin. And their barn is located across from the Greenwood Cemetery. And a picture of the drive-through as it looks today. And unless there's some questions about the history, I'll let Sean take over.
Anybody have any questions?
All right. So anyone that's called in, if you want to raise your hand using the Zoom function, we're happy to entertain any questions, and we can also take them at the end as well. Well, I'm not seeing anything right now, Sean.
Okay.
That's the green button on the bottom.
So I know, like I said before, that I've had the opportunity to talk a little bit about some of the great things that are out in the building products market right now that are ideal for historic buildings and historic restoration. And I think the last time I talked to this group was maybe 4 to 5 years ago. And so new things have come along, and I want to reinforce some of the things that I've talked about before. A big theme of what I'm going to be talking about tonight is traditional materials like wood that have been continue to be used, and in many cases augmented and improved, which makes them absolutely fantastic for houses of historic nature, to get them to look the way you want, but get some additional durability and maybe save a little bit on maintenance. I'm going to start talking about doors. I myself have a long history in the door business. That's what I started in this industry in. And I've sold a lot of wood doors in my time. And wood doors, of course, are been around for hundreds, if not thousands of years. In Europe, the United States, that is the traditional material that you build doors out of. And that tradition continues to this day. One of the companies we do a lot of wood doors with is called Simpson. West Coast company. They specialize in wood doors in a wide variety of styles and wood species. They're very custom friendly. So if you need a door to match something that's existing, they can make that door to look very much like the one you have currently in the wood species of your choice. Now, wood doors these days are a little different than they were in the past. Most of the wood styles and rails that you see here are made of engineered materials. So it's basically laminated substrates with a veneer on the top. So whereas in the past, this was a solid piece of wood, these days, those are basically engineered material, which enhances their stability, making them much less prone to warpage and enhancing their durability. Laminated wood has been around for an awfully long time. Viking ships were made out of this stuff 1,000 years ago. And some of those Viking ships have been found at the bottom of the North Sea, still intact 1,000 years later. So we know the technology works. Get a little idea of some of the different styles that they offer. And again, they will make custom setups for you, but they do have a very vast array of what I call standard offerings in a variety of different wood species. You can paint them, you can stain them, you can get them in pine, you can get them in fir, you can get them in oak, mahogany, many other wood types. So they really do a great job getting that wood door look and feel out to the public. High quality product, very durable, and we sell a lot of them. A couple of the innovations that they've come up with. One of the things I love about them is they've taken the most vulnerable parts of the door and they've added some technology to make the door hold up better. So it is a wood door, but at the very bottom corners, which is where many doors begin to fall apart, they've put some composite material which is impervious to water penetration. So that little enhancement absolutely makes that door a much better durable product over the long haul. In addition, they will put water impervious materials overlaid on the top of the door. So if the door has high exposure to water or rain, it's going to have a nice protective skin on it, which when it's painted, you would really have a difficult time from the street knowing that that material was on there. And that's the key thing with Simpson, is that you're really getting a super authentic, traditional looking door that really is going to stay with the character of your historic older home. Now, a product that's out there in great abundance in the market right now are fiberglass doors. They've been around for a while. They're huge sellers. You can see from the pictures here, they're quite attractive. They've done a lot with fiberglass doors over the years to make them look identical to wood doors. One of the big things that they've managed to do is get rid of those very kind of obtrusive and obvious glass surrounds. Those were always your biggest tip-off that this is not a wood door. They've gone to what's called flush glazing. And I have to say that if you come into our showroom and you look at some of these doors, they are impressively authentic looking. so that you can get a stained or painted look that does definitely have that traditional look. Obviously, fiberglass is a highly durable material, utterly water impervious, and also extremely thermally efficient. So in terms of impeding cold transfer, terrific. Oh, one more thing before I leave this slide. Many of these doors are available in factory finishes. So obviously a door could be stained or painted in the field, but there are some distinct advantages of getting a factory finished product. It's done in shop conditions, the paint finish is warranted, and the quality of that paint finish is going to be better than most of what you're going to get from a field applied job. A lot of color options too. Now, with that theme of pre-finishing in mind, I wanted to point out one of the nicer companies that we deal with in terms of options and features and quality. This is a New Brunswick, Canada based company, Norwood. They do both doors and windows, and their specialty is wood doors and wood windows that are factory pre-finished in the color of your choice. The doors and windows carry a 15-year warranty on that paint finish, which is absolutely outstanding, and it's absolutely a thing of beauty. So if you visit our showroom ever and you want to take a look at one of these things, we've got a beautiful door upstairs. Frank's had a great success selling these entry doors. Bob's had some terrific projects at some educational institutions in the area, and they really do a beautiful job. I mean, if you're talking about coming through with a high-end attractive product for a historical building, these guys are top notch. All right, their paint finish is intriguing. I've seen it. I've seen their factory. What they do is they put an electrical charge into the woods, and that's carried by the wood preservative treatment. They then put it in a paint booth, and basically at that point, the paint is attracted to the wood in an electrostatic process. It ends up being a real baked on finish. It's really something to see, and it does carry that 15-year warranty, which is kind of amazing for a painted product, a painted wood product. Huge array of colors too, right? Another big thing that they do is they're very big into decorative exterior casings. So you're going to notice a lot of historic buildings have these bold, larger exterior casings. They've got pediment heads, they've got keystones. Norwood is big on that for doors and windows. So if you got somebody who wants to really put an attractive product with all of the enhancements you'd expect from a historical home or building, they're great. A couple other shots of the stuff that they do. They're big into hardwoods as well. So if you wanted to have a mahogany door or another type of species, alder or maple, no problem for them. Very much up their alley. All right. Does anybody have any questions about doors before we go any further? Because I'll stop now while it's fresh in your mind.
Okay, if anyone called in and if you've got a question and want to raise your hand using the Zoom feature, then you can jump in and let's see, I have somebody on the panelist.
This is Matt. I
Oh,
have
go ahead.
a question.
Yes, sir.
Sean, can you talk a little bit about how both the doors and the windows, the ability to stand up to UV?
Yes. When you have, certainly, like, it's a good question because Norwood would be the classic example of that process. So with modern paint finishes, and Norwood would fit into this model nicely, you have a lot of paint technologies that do certainly help that process of not degrading under UV bombardment, I guess you'd call it. There's lots of chemical enhancements and chemistry that goes into making even a dark colored door or window not fade. We'll talk a little bit later about windows. One of the most interesting things I've seen about UV protection is we sell, well, a lot of windows in the market are being sold in black these days. All right. Now you'd think, my God, black's going to heat up like crazy, right, in the sun. But these paint finishes have additives to them that if you were to go on a hot day and put your hand on that black window, it would not be hot at all. So that is a big part of keeping paint finishes from degrading or fading, are these additives that are put into the finishes to basically keep the material cool and to prevent the kind of breakdown or heat buildup that we associate with these things falling apart. Anybody else? Okay, good question. This is a house right here. These are Lincoln windows. You may recognize this house. It's in West Hartford, I believe, on Prospect. The Loomis Woolley building, I think it's called. Frank, did you sell that one?
Wendy sold that one.
Wendy sold
That
that
is
one.
actually a condo building. It's the Loomis Woolley Estate. There was originally a house very similar to that, which had fallen into disrepair, and the developer bought the site, built several condo buildings, and created one of them to look very similar to what was there before.
So part of that process of getting this building back to where they wanted to be was this company, Lincoln Windows. Now you're going to see Lincoln Windows in a lot of places in our local area. Merrill, Wisconsin-based company. We've been doing business with them for many, many years. What they do is they offer a tremendous variety of options for you to get you where you want to be, starting with our favorite for historical, wood exterior. They are one of the few window manufacturers that is still doing that wood outside window. They will do an aluminum clad exterior. They'll also do vinyl clad exteriors. Primed, of course, is, obviously appropriate for historical use. You'll notice in their prime windows that in the vulnerable locations of the window, the sill, they're using composite materials, which holds up very nicely to water and weather. And once it's painted, you really can't tell that it's not a wood product. But the rest of the material is all wood. All right, there's your aluminum clad. Obvious maintenance and durability advantages there, lots of color options. They do vinyl cladding as well, which has certain positive advantages. Vinyl cladding is a little more thermally efficient than aluminum cladding is, and it tends to be a little less money than aluminum clad. All right, they do a lot of grill options. Now, the big options these days for historical, probably the king of grill options for windows these days, where you want that traditional look, is what they call simulated divided light. That's where you have in a given window a single piece of insulated glass with grill bars applied both front and back, and a spacer between the glass to give you that look of individual panes of glass. The advantage of that is it's more thermally efficient and more durable than actually true dividing the glass, and it looks terrific. You have grills between the glass and removable grills options as well from them, not quite so traditional. But right here you see the SDL concept, which is applied grills front and back with that spacer, super authentic looking and a great performer. All right, they do windows for renovation and remodeling, as well as new construction. So you've got double hung window kits. You have insert windows. So if you have an existing window and you want to refurbish it or get it back into a better condition in terms of its operation and its thermal efficiency, they've got lots of different ways of achieving that. Okay. And I'll show you some shots that we've, projects that we've done with them. Luxury homes. There's the Millbrook School in New York. Those are all Lincoln windows in there. That's a dormitory. Those were wood exterior windows. Frank, that's your job there, brick walk. Were those clad or wood, Frank, on the outside?
Those are aluminum clad.
Okay. And Bob, those were wood exterior, right?
Correct. Yes, they were wood exterior at the
Yep.
school.
So the school was very big on maintaining a traditional wood look, and we were able to fit the bill there for that beautiful dormitory.
Just if while we're talking about the school, that particular school, as Sean says, is will not use vinyl, will not use aluminum clad. So we've used quite a bit of actually Simpson doors. We used supplied a ton of Simpson doors to them, Norwood windows, Norwood doors, and then Lincoln windows in this building and this dormitory, and then also in a facilities building. But just to reiterate what Sean said, Simpson is a great option. They're a semi-custom, they're stock door manufacturer and semi-custom, and they're at a very reasonable price point for the degree of replication they can do. And at the school, we're forever putting in, giving them doors that match 1920 and 1930 era doors and get remarkably close.
Yeah, Millbrook is kind of almost like a great case study that if I wanted to show somebody all the products that we sell that fit the historical bill, Millbrook School is would be a great place to visit. Couple other familiar buildings for the folks here. Avon Public Library, those are Lincoln windows. There are Lincoln windows in your favorite Walgreens there, right near the bridge. Those are aluminum clad, but I'm sure a lot of you drive by that building every day. There's the Lime Library, Lincoln windows, the Unionville McDonald's, we know that one as well. Those are Lincoln windows. And there are plenty of other Lincoln projects in the area. There's some in the area over by Miss Porter's. There's the Congregational Church on Route 44 in Avon at the corner of Route 10, and probably a whole bunch of other ones that I can't reel off, but they're all around you. And they're a terrific option for anybody who needs windows that gives you that nice historic look. Coltec. Coltec is a company from Canada. You'll notice that there's some Canadian companies working into our discussions here today. The Canadians are big on woodwork and building products. Coltec is a vinyl window fabricator. So we've talked about wood windows from Norwood and from Lincoln. Vinyl windows, I think we've talked about this before in some of our seminars, kind of a different animal. It's a window made of PVC. There's some distinct maintenance positives on that, some distinct durability positives, utterly water impervious. One of the big positives on vinyl windows is, especially the high quality ones like Coltec, is that they really have been ahead of the curve in high performance glass. So Coltec, for instance, has window dealers that are above the Arctic Circle. This company knows all about making windows for cold climates. And they're very much into triple glazing, which gives you absolutely phenomenal thermal performance. But for the purposes of what we like about them for historic is they're big into painted exteriors. So they can do like that red window, that black window. They're big into exterior casings, kind of like Norwood. They're also big into STL. So you can really get a vinyl window, which gives you that true historic look. And you'll see them, I mean, we've already seen the building that Frank talked about. Our building in Unionville has Coltec windows in it. When you drive by, have a look. Okay, big on paint. There's the triple glazing that they do. So if you have somebody who really wants that thermal super performer, can't do better than that. Exterior casing, they're big into flat casing. They give you that nice massive look. Okay. And there's some projects that we've done, some single family homes. Ethel Walker Dormitory. So that's certainly a traditional looking building. That building, which you've probably driven by a few times on Bushy Hill, those are Coltec windows. All right. Does anybody have any window questions?
Yeah, I do. I have a window question. Okay. So if someone was able to save the glass, their original glass, could they then be put into any of these finishes to, increase non-water permeability or or thermo, greater thermo protection? Or should they just try to get something that looks like?
Well, I mean, so I guess my question would be, what would the intent be of saving the glass you have?
It's one of the things that is mentioned in the paperwork coming out of the Park Service, that should, whenever possible, keep the original glass.
Really? Okay.
And
Well,
sometimes glass does have a particular look.
true, it does. Yes, certainly.
Yeah.
I think that one of the issues you have with window companies is they are subject to test protocols, meaning that they have in order for them to substantiate their performance, they have to use materials that they source, meaning that if they use somebody else's glass, they wouldn't be able to warranty or confirm the performance characteristics of the product. So that would be tricky. Now, could Sanford and Hawley make, sash, et cetera, that would be fitting old windows? Yes, we could. And so could some of these companies. You simply wouldn't get some of the performance warranties that you might get when they use all of their own materials.
Okay.
So the answer is both yes and no.
Yeah. Okay.
As many things are in life.
And it would be cheaper to go with a new window?
Well, I mean, I guess that would depend. I think that most often I probably would say yes. My guess is when you try to be using existing glass, you might use it in a certain setting where it was let's say a fixed window that was locally fabricated. These companies, I think that you're kind of talking about apples and oranges. These are factory built windows with all of their own materials.
Right.
We have other resources to build customized things locally, et cetera, that could incorporate some of the glass you're talking about. It would be hard to discuss price because you're really talking about different situations, sizes of windows, shapes, et cetera.
Right.
So
Okay.
It would be hard to say.
Okay, interesting. All right.
But good question.
Could
Anybody else?
Can I just follow up on that question? I mean,
Yes.
Barbara brings up a good point that one of the basic guidelines for all historic districts are to rehabilitate elements of buildings rather than replacing them, if at all
Yes.
possible. And so my question would be, and Barbara was driving toward that too, I think. My question would be, if someone in the district had a historic building and their windows needed repair, and there were parts of the windows that needed to be replaced, but they had to match the original parts. Is that a possibility with these companies, or is that only something that's a local contractor could do? What would you advise with that?
I'd say that's definitely a local. That would be, a local guy that would come in and rehabilitate the windows.
Mhm.
These companies, like I said, because of their test protocols, they're basically think of these guys as they're baking cakes with all their own materials.
Yeah.
So, they're not producing component parts for use in other settings.
Mhm.
What you're talking about is a skilled craftsman is going to come in, fix the broken parts of the window, clean it up, maybe reglaze it, fix the hardware. There are hardware companies that specialize in components. Strybuck is one, for instance, that we deal with out of Philadelphia that produces parts and pieces. But it would require that technician, that guru, that would know what he was doing to take those parts and components and apply them in the field.
Great. Thank you.
That would be you need a guy with great skill there.
Yeah.
John, let me jump in for a minute if you don't
Sure.
mind.
Yep.
Lincoln will make windows open for glazing by others, which if you had, for example, old hand-blown glass that you wanted to reuse, Lincoln could make a window, probably custom sized, to fit that glass. And then that could be locally glazed into a new window So you would have the air infiltration benefits of a new window, nice and tight, easily operating,
Mm,
secure, but you would still have the thermal performance of single glass.
mm. Oh, that's
Yeah.
good to know. Yep.
Yeah, I
yep.
imagine Norwood probably would do the same thing, is my guess.
Yes, I think they would. And Norwood also has a lot of experience in matching things historically.
Mm.
And they will, for example, do custom wood profiles to replicate an existing sash exactly.
Mm-hmm. Mm. That's good to know.
Or a casing. When you look through some of their catalog of options, it's evident that they've made knives to cut something for a specific job and then said, well, we've got the knife, we may as well put it in the catalog.
Norwood is big, as we saw, like I showed you this picture here, Norwood has done a huge number of windows and doors for older historic buildings. I mean, that's really big for them. So to Frank's point, they are, quite adept at building things which, fit these difficult historical applications.
Great. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So, doors and windows, we move on to decking and porch flooring. Many wood products available for porches and decks out there. We sell quite a bit of Douglas fir porch flooring. We have it in stock. It sells well. All right, great products. Douglas fir is a tremendously strong, straight wood. We sell a ton of framing lumber in Douglas fir. So we know a lot about this wood, and it's still available for porch flooring and for other applications. We do a lot of different types of wood decking. A lot of the wood decking we sell is southern yellow pine in both kiln dried and non-kiln dried. We have a product right now called kiln dried after treatment. It's basically called brown. It's brown in color. Terrific product, very innovative. It takes normal pressure treated lumber. They put it through a heat process, which makes it more stable, nicer to work with, and less shrinkage. So a lot of southern yellow pine decking, big part of the market, and we sell a ton. We have cedar decking in stock, which is of course very rot resistant, very attractive, very traditional. And we have access certainly to tropical hardwoods, which have terrific durability. You're going to see a lot of composite decking materials out there in the market these days, both all PVC as well as composite. Composite is an interesting concept. You're taking wood, you're taking plastic, and you're merging them. So you're getting some of the good characteristics of wood with some of the rot resistant, low maintenance characteristics of the plastics. We do a lot with composite and PVC decking, very attractive, and of course, extremely low maintenance. All right, there's some pictures of what they look like. All right, you do see they do often carry that wood grain appearance. All right, that's kind of a side cut of what it looks like. These grooves are used to fasten the deck board to the deck substructure. They're called hidden fasteners. So you can walk on your deck and never see the head of a screw or a nail, which is nice. Porch ceiling, we have materials in stock to create these beautiful porch ceilings in wood. Now, one of my favorite products that we've been carrying for a number of years comes from, I think it's 9,000 miles away from the North Island of New Zealand. It's a product called Lifespan, right? Lifespan is radiata pine. So radiata pine is a California wood species that was brought to New Zealand and turned out to be really a great product for New Zealand. The trees grow great in their climate, and they've got a ton of them. So they have these giant tree farms in the North Island of New Zealand, and they grow these pine trees like rows of corn. They trim the branches off so they have no knots in them. And then they harvest the trees and they build trim boards and moldings with this wood, and they treat the wood so that it's rot impervious. We've been selling it for a long time. I don't know that we've ever had a claim that this stuff ever rotted. I've never heard of it if we ever did. So great product, innovative product, a wood product. So you've got all the nice characteristics of wood, but a special treatment process, which gives you a lifetime warranty against rot, and available in a lot of different shapes and sizes, right? Lifespan, New Zealand comes from. And we'll talk about Lifespan a little bit later. I've got more products for them to show. We love it. Our contractors love it. And it's kind of an alternative to PVC. You know, we have our PVC trim boards, our PVC moldings, and there's a lot good about PVC. It looks nice. When you paint it, it looks like wood. It never rots. But in general, carpenters like to work with wood. It's easier to work with. It doesn't produce the dusts and whatnot that you get with PVC. And basically, wood still is the king in terms of, for the carpenters, in terms of workability. All right, but there are many interesting PVC products out there which give you a beautiful look and ultra low maintenance. All right, porch posts and columns available in both wood and composite materials. So, you know, if you really don't want to worry about these columns right here ever rotting or falling apart, there's some terrific composite materials out there. And I tell you what, from the street or even close up, it's awful hard to tell that they're not wood. Railings, same thing. We have wood railings, we have composite railings. So for your decks, for your porches, you can get a very attractive look here in a low maintenance material. Does not, you know, degrade the historic look of your home. It gives you that durability and that low maintenance that the composites are well known for. This one over here on the left is a classic example. It's a wood plastic hybrid. Looks great. You'll see it on the front of our building in Unionville. Nice looking, very durable. We do a lot with cedar. I mean, both in terms of decking and in other products. Cedar is obviously a terrific wood, traditionally used for a lot of different ways, but naturally rot resistant, and continues to be a popular option in a lot of different phases of building, including decks and porches. All right, a little more. Go ahead, question.
Sorry. All right.
Yeah.
So if someone was to replace wood with PVC, we probably would say use wood, but let's say they were, could you recreate? In other words, if they show you a picture or bring you a piece, could you recreate the design? Or do they come pretty standard?
Well, PVC can be, it can be worked to some degree. It's not as workable as wood, but, you know, for instance, this is PVC right here. So PVC does have some flexibility to be made into shapes that you want. Yes, that is correct. I mean, it depends on what you're trying to do, but PVC is somewhat versatile in that regard. It definitely has the capacity to be shaped in the way that you want it. And it'll never rot. Good question.
A plus.
Yes. You know what? The other good thing about it, and I'll say this much for it, it really holds paint well. It really does. So, you know, not only does it will never rot, but when you paint it, it stays painted. And that's nice. There's our Lifespan trim boards. Notice again, a real wood product. They also do moldings in Lifespan. We really love Lifespan. I mean, this has been a tremendous product for us. It's a good price point. It's got a lifetime warranty against rot. Customers, carpenters love it. Customers love it. It's wood. You know, there's not much to complain about this stuff. We stock it and we sell the heck out of it. It's also available in siding. So like when you get into siding, you're going to see cedar and prime cedar. We sell a lot of both of those, but there is also Lifespan clapboards as well. Same thing. lifetime warranty against rot, and it's wood. There are some good wood siding alternatives that, that look nice. You've got the James Hardie products, that's fiber cement. There's some other brands of fiber cement products. That's a fly ash product, very durable, holds paint beautifully. Got another product here called LP Smart Side, which is an engineered wood product. What I like about LP is it has many of the same characteristics of James Hardie, with the additional plus is it's less vulnerable to impact. So for instance, in a certain kinds of hailstorms, etc., Hardie could be damaged by that. If somebody threw a baseball into Hardie, it could crack it. You're not going to see that with LP Smart Side. All right, so it's got the same durable characteristics, holds paint really well, but less brittle, I guess I'd say. But both excellent, authentic looking alternatives to wood. If somebody wants something that's going to hold paint for a long, long, long time, it's hard to go wrong with either one of these guys. And it looks a lot nicer than vinyl siding, which is important. All right, I think I've churned up most of my allotted time. So if you folks have any questions, here we are.
I actually have a question for you, Sean. This is Shannon. I was curious. I found it interesting citing some of the sources for materials coming from Canada, New Zealand, etc. Was curious about the shipping costs and what that does to the material cost for you folks as compared to things that are sourced in the United States, or even close, or closer, closer to home, and what you have seen from an availability, because I know our supply stream has gone really haywire
Yes.
this past year, which
Yes.
so your supply demand is all over the place, and then you add on to that with some of these products coming from out of the country. Was curious.
Great, terrific question. Now I'm going to tell you a little story, and then I'm going to let my colleagues speak about the supply issues. So I was once interested in that exact same question. And so here's what I found out. This was like kind of shocking to me, that ocean travel is ultra efficient. And I was told once that the cost of getting the material from New Zealand to Philadelphia was about the same cost as getting it from Philadelphia to Hartford.
Huh.
That's how efficient shipping is versus trucking.
Wow. Okay.
So, when you see, like, you guys all saw that ship that got stuck in the Suez Canal. All right. And you saw how all the stuff on that ship. The interesting thing is that moving things by ocean is really pretty cost effective, really cost effective.
Huh.
So overland travels tends to be quite a bit more, consumes more energy, is more difficult. So, that's, I guess one of the things I learned was that's why we have this global economy, because of these efficiencies. Now, are there supply problems and issues? Absolutely. And I'll throw that to my colleagues. Any of the Sanfords or John Horoho want to speak to that, because yes, there have been some issues. So I'll let them speak on that topic.
This is Bob. I think I'll just address on the window side, the Coltec windows from Nova Scotia and the Norwood from New Brunswick. Those plants are actually closer to us than most of the American-made windows, which tend to come from the upper Midwest, Wisconsin, Minnesota. Marvin, for instance, is in very, very north central Minnesota, and is many, many miles further away than the Atlantic provinces. So that actually makes those manufacturers much closer to us. Frank may be the best one to talk about on supply, but it is definitely, there are challenges. Some have been COVID related, as far as production limitations due to the pandemic, illnesses and social distancing inefficiencies, and then some uptick in demand, and then also some weather issues. Frank, you probably have more to add than I do on that.
Yeah, I'll add a little bit. We try to think ahead. and manage these issues ourselves. We have much larger inventories this time this year than we did a year ago. And, you know, in March, early March of last year, we were anticipating a great season and had pretty heavy inventories, and they're up a lot now. And the other thing that we advise is planning ahead with special order things like windows. We can let you know what the lead time is for specific products with specific manufacturers. We've found that the times can vary considerably. It may depend whether you want double hung or casement windows or patio doors within the same manufacturer, may be on different timelines. Any other specifics I can answer?
No, I think that answers that question for me. I don't know. Does anyone else have any other questions? Again, if you've called in as an attendee, you can use the Zoom feature to raise your hand and we can activate your microphone for you. No, I'm not seeing anyone else with their hand raised.
Good question about supply. That was a good one because this has been an interesting year,
Yeah, well,
to say the least.
Yeah, yeah. So you've been Farmington, you are Farmington's oldest business, and we hope that you will continue to do that well into the future. So your grandchildren, great-great-grandchildren will be running the business as well. We'll look forward to that. Thank you so much, Frank, Bob, and Sean, for presenting this program tonight. This was very, very informative. And I know the folks who attended from outside the commission got a lot of good information just in time for planning their spring and summer renovations. So perfect. Thank you so very much.
We appreciate the opportunity, and it's a lot of fun. Thank you.
Yeah,
Good.
I was going to say as well, thank you for the opportunity. And your point, Lisa, we do have 3 members of the 5th generation in the company. Actually, Abby Sanford's on the call tonight, and we have Bobby and Sanford and Will Sanford, all 3 of them working with the company.
Wow.
Wonderful.
So we're hopeful to be around for years to come.
Wonderful. We're planning on it.
And we hope the big red store on the corner will be there, yes.
Thank you.
That is right. Good.
okay, and Bob Hoffman has his hand raised. Bob, go ahead and unmute your microphone and jump in.
I just wanted to thank everybody for their time that they spent with us and the history and everything of that industry right down my street here. And they've been very helpful to us too.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for taking the time and sharing this with us. The history was fascinating. I love seeing the photos of the flood from an engineering standpoint. It completely blows my mind that, you know, to see those photos and drive through there on a regular basis is really, really startling, and a good reminder of, yes, what Mother Nature can do when we aren't mindful with our designs. So
Yeah. And how buildings can survive. You know, it's really fascinating. Given care and attention, they can survive and thrive. So that's wonderful. Good. Well, thank you all. So Shannon, we don't need to do a business portion of the meeting. We can, this is our educational session.
great.
I expect we'll have you back next year. Sanford and Holly, thank you for being with us tonight, everybody. And happy April Fool's Day.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks,
you.
everyone. Have a good evening and a nice
See you
weekend.
next year.